Liam leaned forward, his voice dripping with arrogance, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Just so we're clear," he said smoothly, savoring every syllable like a man delivering a victory speech. "We wanted you to know now so there's no confusion later. Everything goes to us." His words hit me like a sucker punch straight to the gut, knocking the breath from my lungs. For a moment I just sat there, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth. The rich, savory scent of homemade lasagna, the very dish Mom had promised would lure me home for a nice family dinner, suddenly turned nauseating. My appetite vanished, replaced by a leaden weight in my stomach. The dining room, which had moments ago been filled with a familiar clinking of silverware and soft chatter, grew eerily silent. Only the distant hum of traffic from beyond our suburban cul-de-sac remained, a background noise that seemed detached from the unfolding scene. My heart pounded in my ears as I stared across the polished cherrywood table at my younger twin siblings, Liam and Leona. They both wore identical expressions of smug satisfaction, their eyes glinting with barely concealed triumph. I forced my voice to remain steady, though a tremor of disbelief crept in. "Excuse me, what do you mean, everything?" Leona let out a quiet, amused snort, twirling a glossy strand of hair around her finger. "Exactly what he said," she said sweetly, her voice dripping with faux innocence. Before I could press further, my mother's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "Sarah," she said sharply, her smile gone. Her lips pressed together in that all-too-familiar way, one that always meant she had already made up her mind and that my feelings on the matter were irrelevant. She folded her napkin neatly, as if tidying up the conversation before it even had a chance to begin. "Your father and I have finalized our will. We wanted you to hear it directly from us, rather than making assumptions." Blinked. Making assumptions. Mom ignored me, continuing as if I hadn't spoken. "The house, the lake cottage, everything. It's all going to Liam and Leona." I turned to Dad, searching desperately for some flicker of hesitation, some indication that this was some kind of sick joke, a misunderstanding that would soon be cleared up. But he wouldn't meet my gaze. His eyes were fixed on the silverware in front of him, as if the arrangement of his knife and fork had suddenly become the most fascinating thing in the world. The silence stretched between us, painful and heavy, until he finally spoke, his voice quiet and carefully controlled. "Sarah, you have to understand our reasoning." He folded his hands together slowly, deliberately. "You've done extremely well for yourself. Your mother and I are very proud of your career, of the success you've built for yourself." I stiffened, a cold sense of dread creeping over me. I knew exactly where this was going. Liam and Leona, well, they're still finding their footing, Dad continued. They need more support. Support. A bitter laugh bubbled up inside me, but I swallowed it down, my throat burning. For years I had been their support. I had shouldered our family's financial burdens in silence, believing it was my duty as the eldest. Their mortgage payments, Liam's endless tuition changes, Leona's whims and costly hobbies. All of it quietly covered by me. No questions asked. No complaints. And now, as repayment, I was being cut out. My heart twisted painfully as I studied my parents' faces. No remorse. No guilt. Just a firm, unwavering belief that they were making the right decision. The betrayal was sharper than I had ever imagined it could be. "So," I said finally, my voice low and tight, "this is my reward for spending the last 4 years paying your mortgage?" Mom's mouth flattened into a thin line. "Pressed on. For covering Liam's tuition bills. For putting $30,000 into renovating that lake cottage last summer?" My voice rose despite myself, the sheer audacity of it all making my pulse hammer in my temples. "You're leaving me nothing because I made something of myself?" Mom let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking her head in exasperation. "This is exactly why we didn't want to tell you," she said, her tone dripping with condescension. "You always bring it back to money, Sarah. It's never about family with you." Heat surged into my cheeks, my fists clenching beneath the tablecloth. I inhaled sharply, It was always about family for me, I said, my voice steadier now, calmer. Every sacrifice I made was because of family. 'Cause you asked, Mom. Because you always said family sticks together. Liam scoffed, leaning back in his chair, arms crossed smugly. You're acting like some kind of martyr, he drawled. Nobody forced you to help. You just liked playing the hero. Leona let out a quiet chuckle, her nails tapping rhythmically against her wine glass. Maybe you thought that if you threw enough money at us, Mom and Dad would finally love you as much as they love us, she mused, tilting her head, eyes twinkling with amusement. The words hit their mark, sharper than any blade. And my parents, they didn't say a word. Didn't reprimand her. Didn't so much as blink. Their silence was louder than any defense they could have mounted. They had always indulged Liam and Leona, always protected them, always excused every irresponsible choice they made. And yet here I sat, after years of sacrifice, being painted as greedy, selfish. Something inside me snapped. You're right, Liam, I said finally, forcing my voice to remain steady. No one forced me. I pushed back my chair abruptly, standing up. But from today onward, no one can guilt me into being this family's ATM either. I grabbed my coat from the hallway, my breath coming fast and uneven. The scent of marinara and baked garlic still lingered in the air, a cruel reminder of what I had foolishly thought would be a warm, comforting family dinner. Instead, I had been ambushed, humiliated, rejected. The front door swung shut behind me with a definitive thud, sealing me off from the voices inside. Voices that no longer mattered. Outside, the cool Portland air hit me like a slap, sharp and bracing. But it did little to dull the raw ache in my chest. I climbed into my car, gripping the steering wheel with trembling hands. Tears blurred my vision as I stared at the quiet street ahead. My own family had used me, discarded me, and now I was finally done. By the time I reached my apartment downtown, something inside me had shifted. A weight had lifted. I poured myself a generous glass of Cabernet, the expensive one I had been saving for a special occasion. Somehow, tonight's bitter lesson seemed fitting enough. Settling onto my couch, I pulled up my banking app. Recurring payments flashed across the screen. $1,800. Parents' mortgage. $600. Utilities. Without hesitation, I canceled them both. A quiet defiance bubbled through me as the confirmation messages flashed across the screen. For the first time in years, I was free. They had taken everything from me, but they had given me something too. Freedom. Either he paid or he faced the charges. It was his choice. The line went silent for a moment before he abruptly hung up. The next morning, a transfer notification appeared in my account. Exactly $3,000. The payment was labeled bitterly as final payment, a clear indication of their resentment. But as I stared at the transaction, I realized the money itself didn't matter. This was never about the money. It was about something far more important. For the first time in my life, I had forced them to face the reality they had long ignored. Actions have consequences. Liam's petty vandalism hadn't broken me. If anything, it had done the opposite. It had cemented my independence, proving that I was no longer bound by their selfish demands. As I stood in the doorway of my newly repaired apartment, I took a deep breath, inhaling the crisp morning air. This was what freedom felt like. It wasn't just financial. It was emotional liberation. Yes, my family had betrayed me. They had used me, drained me, and discarded me the moment I stopped being useful. But they had also unknowingly set me free. And now, at last, I could build a life on my own terms. One where I answered to no one but myself. The silence that followed. After Liam's outburst, my family's silence was deafening. Days stretched into weeks. No angry messages. No phone calls filled with thinly veiled guilt trips. No desperate attempts at reconciliation. At first, the quiet was a relief. But as the weeks passed, that silence took on a different weight. It became a void, an unspoken confirmation that they had chosen their side. And once again, it wasn't me. Then the rumors started. One evening my phone buzzed with a call from Aunt Daisy. The concern in her voice was unmistakable. "Sarah, your mom's been talking." "Talking?" I repeated, already dreading the answer. "She's telling everyone that you abandoned them, that you cut them off and left them to struggle. People think you're making your parents homeless." My stomach twisted. "That's ridiculous," I whispered, gripping the phone tighter. "They left me no choice." "I know that," Daisy soothed. "But others don't. They think you're selfish, that you stopped helping them out of greed." Greed. That word stung. I had spent years sacrificing for them. Years of cancelled vacations, delayed personal goals, endless financial strain. All because I was told family takes care of family. And now they had erased all of it. My sacrifices had been rewritten into selfishness. I paced my apartment, anger and hurt swirling into something sharper. Determination. I had spent too long being the obedient, silent one. Too long letting them control the narrative. No more. I sat at my laptop, my fingers flying across the keyboard. I laid it all bare. The mortgage payments I had covered, Liam's reckless spending, Liana's endless demands, even the damage Liam had caused. Every sacrifice. Every dollar. Every quiet moment of resentment I had swallowed. My hands trembled as I clicked post. Years of silence shattered with a single click. The fallout. The reaction was immediate. Comments poured in. Some from people expressing shock and sympathy, horrified that I had been exploited for so long. But others. They were quick to judge. "You should have kept this private. Family is family. No matter what. You just embarrassed your own parents. That's cruel." And then Mom's voicemail. "How dare you humiliate us like this? You have no right." Something snapped inside me. No right. I hit call without hesitation. "You lied," I spat the moment she answered. "You told everyone I abandoned you after everything I've done for this family? You did abandon us," she hissed. "All because we chose to help your siblings, because we did what was best for them." "No," I said, my voice shaking. "You abandoned me the moment you decided my sacrifices meant nothing. You raised Liam and Liana to believe that entitlement was more important than responsibility. And now you're paying the price." There was silence. Then her voice dropped to a cold whisper. "You've destroyed this family." I closed my eyes, exhaling slowly. "No, Mom," I said softly. "You did that yourself." Hung up. For the first time I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel regret. Felt free. The truth comes out. A few days later, Aunt Daisy showed up at my door, a warm cup of coffee in each hand. "Your post changed everything," she said quietly, stepping inside. "People finally see the truth. They had no idea how much you gave, how much your parents hid from them." Decide. "Does it even matter anymore?" "Yes," she said firmly. "Because our voice matters. You deserve recognition for what you've done." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that until the words settled in my chest. For the first time in years I felt seen. Moving forward. Days passed. Then weeks. A text from Liana came in one evening. Short. Bitter. "Thanks a lot. Everyone hates us now. Hope you're proud." I stared at it for a long moment, then typed my reply. "I'm done apologizing for your choices. Maybe now, you'll finally learn responsibility." She never replied. My parents, now cut off from my financial support, were struggling. Mom had taken a grueling shift at a diner. Dad was working a physically demanding job at a hardware store. Liam. He had quit his job, still refusing to grow up. And Liana. She clung to her fantasy of being a social media influencer, chasing a dream that would never come true. Meanwhile, my own life flourished. A well-earned promotion. Corner office. A paycheck that belonged solely to me. For the first time, my financial security wasn't siphoned away by guilt. I booked a long-overdue trip to Italy, standing on a balcony in Florence as the sun painted the sky in shades of gold and violet. Joy wasn't shadowed by obligation anymore. And back home I met Alex, A man who didn't demand anything from me. A man who saw me for who I was, not for what I could give. Months passed, until one cold November evening, Daisy knocked on my door again. "You did it, Sarah," she whispered, hugging me. "You chose yourself. That's bravery." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I still think about them." "Of course you do," she said gently. "But that doesn't mean you regret walking away. Sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who truly values you." As Christmas Eve arrived, I wasn't mourning my loss. I was celebrating my freedom. My parents had tried to punish me by leaving me nothing in their will. But in doing so, they had unknowingly given me something priceless. The courage to choose myself. And I would never give that up again.